Hi there, welcome to Penny Saves Paldea, where I take the fails of Scarlet and Violet and turn them into a generous dose of copium-laced fanfiction. I'll review the fails I'm writing into this week's story, and then I will read the result for your amusement. Let's see what we've got to work with. Our first glitch for this week's story is the stuck expressions. When using selfie mode on the camera, you can choose from a variety of expressions to set up that perfect shot. But in some cases, they can get stuck. And whatever face you are making is the one your character will make all the time, whether they're starting a raid or getting a badge photo. Resetting the game sometimes helps, but not always. I'm calling this second glitch the I didn't touch you battles. Random encounters are no longer in Pokemon games, but it sure doesn't feel that way when you're walking through a grassy field of tiny Pokemon you can barely see. And to make matters worse, some Pokemon will start a fight with you even if you didn't make contact with them. Just let me pass already, please! Finally, we have the infamous olive glitch. The challenge here is to roll a giant prop olive into a goal. However, the olive is very bouncy and it can get stuck in various places. In the gate, on the player themselves, and most notably, on this poor man who's just trying to cheer you on. Thankfully, in my fanfic, Team Star will do their best to rescue him. I'll be opening this chapter on the ferry cruise base, where Team Star brings in anyone affected by Paldea's anomalies in hopes of finding the anomaly's cause. Right now, the group includes Arvin, who can phase through stuff at will. Penny, still hiding her big boss status, has also arrived under the guise of a researcher. And Clive is hiding right outside the base under the guise of perfectly normal student Clive. Let's see how this all goes down. Penny jumps as the ferry cruise gate slams shut behind her, Juliana, and Arvin. She can't help it. All her senses are on high alert. Arvin's ability to control when the anomalies will affect him is their key to finding a pattern in Paldea's chaos. It takes all her self-control not to corner him and immediately insist that he spill his guts on how he does it. But for now, Team Star still thinks she's a helpful hand called in by Cassiopeia. If they suspect she's doing anything to turn Arvin away, they'll kick her out. I just need to talk to Ortega and Giacomo, she reminds herself. Drop this whole silly charade, tell them who I am, and then we can all get to work.
Thanks for coming,
says the grunt who showed them in, speaking more to Arvin than Penny.
You're the guy who does all the phasing stuff, but, on purpose, right?
I guess so,
Arvin replies. The grunt points ahead.
I'll take you to our boss. He's just up this way. And
the guy crosses his arms as he looks Penny up and down.
What's wrong with you exactly?
Nothing's wrong with me, Penny replies, more than a little put off by the rough tone. She can understand the team's stress. The importance of their mission weighs heavily on their minds. But Team Star prides itself on acceptance. There's no need to be so terse with visitors. I'm here to help. The gates creak back open behind them. Excuse me, coming through, a female grunt calls from outside. We've got another olive victim. The Team Star members all bunch together, creating a wide path down the camp's center, while the edges become straight-up claustrophobia-inducing. Another what? Penny thinks, straining her neck to see through the crowd. She must have heard wrong. In all the documentation she's been sent so far, there is no mention of anything that sounds remotely like... A giant olive rolls down the cleared path. Penny recognizes it at once as the surprisingly light and bouncy prop that Katie makes challengers push through her strange web-fenced maze. Far less familiar are the arms sticking out of its sides, waving frantically. Somewhere from the obscured section of the olive, a voice squeaks out, I don't know why this is happening. You're only supposed to roll the olive. Someone tell me why this is happening.
There, buddy,
says the grunt, pushing the poor victim along.
That's rough. I know, but you'll be okay.
Penny stares slack-jawed as the olive-bound gym assistant rolls past her. Then the tightness of the crowd gets to be a bit too much as she pulls away, seeking a quiet corner to process everything. She doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. She almost feels like doing both. Juliana is still waiting outside the gate. The moment it closed, Clive came tumbling out of a tall patch of grass, yelling and slapping away half a dozen Caspakid. None of them touch him directly, but his Pokemon keep coming out for a battle anyway. It's the kind of scene that makes Juliana feel embarrassed by proxy. She kicks a clump of dirt, politely avoiding interaction until he pulls himself and his Pokemon together. Clive mutters something about those Team Star ruffians sending them after him, as his Gyarados chases the Caspikid off.
Well, we'll see about that.
He grins at Juliana, who only makes eye contact long enough to acknowledge him.
I don't know if you got the message, but Cassiopeia canceled Operation Starfall.
She what?
Clive gasps. Juliana winces as a group of Team Star grunts crest a distant hill, rolling what looks like the giant olive from the Cortondo Gym Challenge? They seem pretty involved in their work, but if Clive gets that loud again, he'll defeat whatever purpose he had for hiding this whole time. The open grassy space carries sound inconveniently well.
You probably want to keep your voice sound direct.
It's Clive!
He snaps, pretty much doing the exact opposite. Juliana groans. So it seems, as with generations of children before her, she has to be the one explaining to an adult how to deal with his problems. She ducks into the tall grass and motions for him to follow. She isn't even sure why they're hiding, other than it seems important to Clive. She'll follow his lead for now, though her willingness to trust his judgment is wearing thin. The Team Star grunts do pause at the noise, but then the olive starts to tip backwards down the hill, and they run to steady it.
Why are you so angry at Team Star anyway?
Clive puts a shaking hand to his brow, seeming for the first time to actually hear her. The man never looked young per se, but as he speaks, his voice carries the fatigue of his age. He isn't angry, he explains, but he is frightened, because the criminals inside this base are actively destroying the very fabric of Paldea.
Figuratively?
Literally!
Juliana bites her tongue in an attempt to hold back her laughter. Team Star has been a nuisance for sure, and she certainly can't say she trusts them, but a criminal organization with the technology to attack Paldea's existence, how can anyone take that seriously? Then Juliana realizes she doesn't need to bite her tongue. As hilarious as the situation is, she can't bring herself to so much as smile about it. In fact, she can't bring herself to smile at all. Her hands fly to her face in what's probably a strong Arvin impersonation. Her cheeks don't feel numb, and she can speak just fine. But she can't change her expression. Her mouth and eyebrows, the muscles simply won't move past a certain point.
What's wrong?
Clive asks, suddenly the picture of a calm and concerned teacher.
I don't know. I can't stop frowning. My expression won't change at all.
She expects Clive to shake his head and call her crazy. She feels like she's crazy. But instead, he settles cross-legged in the grass and gives a long sigh.
So, it's happening to you too, then?
What?
Instead of explaining, Clive tells her in a firm but calm tone to close her eyes and take deep breaths. Experience has shown him that if one can relax and reset themselves, as it were, this phase usually passes. Skeptical as she is about relax and reset advice from a guy who couldn't keep his voice down, Juliana slips carefully from her kneeled position to a fully seated one. She rests her bag on her lap, closes her eyes, and inhales deeply through her nose. Then, at Clive's prompting, she exhales slowly through her mouth. She focuses her thoughts on the air flowing in and out of her body, on the solidness of the ground beneath her and the grass all around. Then, as some of the tension recedes from her body, she feels the edges of her mouth turning upwards. Her heart pounds with adrenaline, but she forces herself to smile again and again just to make sure she can.
What is that?
She asks as she opens her eyes. Clive, oblivious to his hypocrisy, puts a finger to his lips in a shushing motion. He then nods towards the Rukba Squad's gate, which is cracked open to allow the olive-pushing grunts through. They have to rotate their baggage to get in, and Juliana sees to her horror that something is sticking out of the olive, something alive.
Is that a person in there?
Clive nods. His observations have shown that Team Star has gathered several individuals affected by Paldea's anomalies, though for what purpose he does not know. He adjusts his glasses as he looks down at Juliana.
I assume from your reaction, they did not send you any confessions?
Juliana shakes her head.
They said they can help Arvin. I just sort of took their word on it. Now I'm worried about Cassiopeia, too.
It sounds pretty naive now that she says it aloud, but Clive encourages her to put Cassiopeia out of her mind for now. If Team Star is willing to speak with her, she should go inside and get whatever information she can.
Do not drop your guard,
he warns.
and call for my help the moment you need it.
Juliana agrees. What else can she do? Clive, Director Clavel, has all the resources of the Academy to back up his claim against Team Star. And Arvin is still inside the base, thinking these people can help him. And the girl with the Eevee backpack, Jenny? Whoever she is, might know as little about Team Star as Arvin does. Juliana stands, grips Tinkatuff's Pokeball at her belt, and marches forward. She's going in there to find out the truth and deal with it. Her emotions won't overpower her again. That's it for video number 7, which is obviously a lucky number, which means you should subscribe for bonus luck. Or something. Lots of thanks in this episode, first to Mad Hat and Truel for the voice work, to Stick Studios for the voice and animation, and finally to Cabanyans on Twitter for the title art. Looking forward to the next one, but until then, happy reading and happy training!